Building a Team, Bob Williams.
Thank you, Doug. Fellow Toastmasters. About 15 years ago when I joined Toastmasters, I only joined for one reason, to get rid of ums and to communicate better. But as I was in Toastmasters longer, I discovered that there's another portion of Toastmasters. In fact, the motto is, where leaders are made. Now, I grew up thinking that leaders are born. He's a born leader. That wasn't me. I was never a born leader. But leadership skills can actually be learned. And one of the parts that are very important is to be able to build a team. If you're in a corporation, some of the benefits of building a team, you see that, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Are you get a variety of members, a variety of talents there, and so the team is much more powerful than each individual member. And the team would probably come up with ideas and solutions that none of the members would ever come up with by themselves. Another thing is that the team has greater creativity and greater productivity. Now, we're talking about the Super Bowl today. There's only 2 teams that made it to the Super Bowl. What's the difference between those teams and all the other teams in the NFL?
Visiting hours for adult services are over in 10 minutes. Thank you for your cooperation.
Well, for one thing, you can't be rich and just buy the Super Bowl because you're limited in the amount of money you can pay your players. So what makes a successful team is not just the people on the field, but all the other people behind the scenes, the team, the coaches, the trainers, everybody that makes that team successful, as well as the players themselves. So team is very important. Now, as a leader, it's very important to have a team as well. You're the leader, you have more time for leadership. You're not doing little nitty-gritty stuff and trying to accomplish the projects yourself. You're getting your team to help. And you can do your issues and corporate goals. And less time on day-to-day stuff and more time for the things that you want to do as a leader. Now, one of the things it had here, which I thought was kind of interesting, was what kind of people do you get on your team? I want some help with this. And Dave, could you write down some of the ideas people come up with? You mind?
Yes.
Yeah, what kind of qualities would you look for in somebody that's going to be on your team? And I'd like to see if the ideas we come up with are the same as what Toastmasters International thinks are important. Anybody have one?
Listening.
Listening skills?
Mia.
Dependable.
Okay, dependable. Melissa.
Creativity.
Creativity. I saw Jennifer.
Self-directed.
Self-directed. Great.
New idea.
Andrea.
Helpful.
Helpful. And yeah,
Trustworthy?
trustworthy. Melantha.
New idea.
New ideas and
Denise. Confident.
confident. Confident or competent?
Confident.
Confident.
Competent.
Okay. And
Hardworking. Hardworking.
hardworking. And we need one from Jeffrey. Then we'll have everything.
Empathetic.
Empathetic. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
We got some good things there. Now, what to me is really hilarious about all this is you get who you get. You get these people, and you don't necessarily get to choose all these people that have all these qualities. I've been in some places where those weren't the people you would have chosen, but those are the ones that you end up getting anyhow. These are some great ideas. Kind of sure, see if we have. Yeah, we got some of them. They're the same. Competent, reliable, motivated, enthusiastic, hardworking, smart, and collaborators. I said that right, quite right. But to me, it's kind of a, yeah, sure, that's what you'd love to get, but how are you gonna do that? Kind of have to work with what you have sometimes. Now you need some goals, and you're gonna have the general objective. Maybe you're gonna bring a new product. Or if you're in Toastmasters, you're gonna put on a TLI, which is our training. Or maybe you're gonna put on a speech contest like we're having next week. So there's a specific general goal, and then you have specific goals. In order to put out a new product, you have to come up with an idea, maybe you have to have a marketing plan, maybe you have to figure out how you're gonna get it in production. A lot of things that might be involved in coming up with a new product. And each individual member has to have their actual responsibilities. So you have general goals for maybe the product, and then specific goals. Did I spell that right? Oh, that's the one I did wrong. Yeah, I messed that up, so I had to do a new sheet. Yeah, specific goals. So one person might be in charge of writing the software, another person might be in charge of keeping track of the money, whatever. I'm just reading a story that's really interesting about the blockade of Berlin back in 1948. General Clay was the military governor of the American sector of Germany. And he was in Berlin, and all of a sudden the Russians decided, we don't want the Americans, the French, and the British here in Berlin anymore. We want the whole thing to ourselves. And so they decided to blockade the railways and the roadways so that nobody could bring supplies into Berlin. And when this came about, being a military guy, Clay says, we're not going to put up with that. We're going to send our convoy, and if the Russians get in the way, we'll just shoot them. And as an afterthought, he thought, well, maybe I better let Washington know what I'm going to do. So he sent a telegram to Washington, and they, of course, were horrified. Hey, we're not going to start killing Russians and start a shooting war. We have a Cold War now. We don't want to have a hot war. This is not the way we're going to start World War III. So they told him, no, you're not going to do that. And he said, wait a minute, I'm the general here. I should be able to decide what happens. Well, the problem was with rules and procedures. What was his authority? And eventually that decision was not his to make, but it actually went to President Truman. And President Truman had to decide what to do about Berlin. So you have to communicate with the team of leaders what your rules and procedures are, how to solve problems, how to make decisions, and develop a plan. And assign the roles and responsibilities. And very important, establish measurements. How do you know that you're on track? If this is supposed to take a year, when you're halfway through, are you halfway done, or have you just barely gotten started? So unless you have some type of measurement, you're not going to know. And then, of course, build team trust. So to build team trust, some of the things that you have to have is members that are truthful. They are, members of the leaders are all equals. They speak openly to one another. They're willing to listen to each other. And they fulfill their responsibilities. Now, one of the things that's very interesting about Washington, D.C., there'll be a committee or a group of people working on a problem. And not everybody's going to agree, but finally the team makes a decision. Well, there might be one guy there that says, I don't like that. So what does he do? Or she do? They leak it to a newspaper and say, yeah, this is what happened, and this is going to be so bad, and publish this. So they try to get something else to happen, and that does not lead to team trust, does it? And it kind of leads to gridlock, in fact. One of the purposes of a leader of a team is to get empowerment with your team so that they can accomplish their goals. They'll be more successful if you inspire them and empower them and give them more responsibility, authority, and autonomy. Have you ever had a manager or anybody that kind of micromanaged you? Couldn't make a decision, and they had to not only tell you what to do, but exactly a little bit how to do it? Drives you nuts, doesn't it? and does not inspire your confidence or empowerment. And another job of a team leader would be to train your team in problem solving, holding effective meetings, organizing, project management, and give them opportunity to communicate and do conflict resolution. So if you have proper communication, you're going to have high morale, pride, willingness to take risks, willingness to change, and efficiency in resolving disagreements. And eventually, as your team leader, what you want to do is have that team so competent and so focused on their goal that you can kind of back away and let them go do their thing. You don't have to be there every minute. And they will work together and achieve their goals much better if you give them the ability to do that. So building a team and managing it, of course, is very important. And I just, it's not part of this whole project, but I just wondered, did anybody have a horror story or a good story that they'd like to share about a team that they've seen or been on? Yeah, David.
When I've been working at AT&T, when we went through the merger with SBC from Texas, one of the things that they always made sure there was somebody from Texas on our project teams. And they came in with like a bulldog in a China place, you know, they just, this is the way it is, this is how we do it, and didn't take anybody else's roles or consideration.
So it's their culture and they ignored.
Yep,
Anything
exactly.
that
There was no such thing as best practices other than,
Mm-hmm.
and it really turned off everybody working in the whole project.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, people got a really bad taste,
No trust, no empowerment, no.
none whatsoever. That slowly changed, but it took a long time for that to happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much.